Hello, this is Weeb Science. On this channel I'm gonna explain how certain aspects in fictional worlds full of magic, superpowers and mythological creatures can be explained by real-world science. Today we'll talk about Tauntauns, a species of reptile mammals native to the ice planet of Hoth. They are known to be used as pack animals, mounts, and sleeping bags for cold winter nights. They are bipedal, have thick fur, curved horns and a long tail, making them look like a fusion of a Pachycephalosaurus and a goat or mufflon. It is reasonable to assume that they are warm-blooded, meaning they can regulate their body temperature, rather than being dependent on the environment to stay warm. This is the case for most animals living in polar regions in the real world, and the exceptions have adapted their bodies to be able to operate under cold conditions by having a low metabolism and proteins serving as a biological antifreeze. We know the Tauntaun's body isn't cold inside, since one was used as a sleeping bag, giving further support to the idea that they are warm-blooded. Their bodies, however, are limited in how much heat they can generate, and during cold nights where the temperatures go below 60 degrees Celsius, they risk freezing to death if they don't hide inside a cave. There is no native civilization on Hoth that could have domesticated the Tauntauns and giving them to the Rebel Alliance for support, so I would assume the rebels captured wild Tauntauns and tamed them, meaning they are still wild animals that were brought under control by training, rather than animals bred for generations to be relatively docile and obedient. This means they aren't really domesticated animals like cows or dogs, they are tamed, like a tiger or an elephant in a circus. Han mentions that the Tauntauns have a bad stench. Canon sources only mention that the smell is because of their thick blubber and fur, but I think there might be an additional reason. Billy goats, or bugs, use certain glands and their urine to create a stench intended to attract females during rut. This reek is difficult to remove once the bug comes in contact with you, or even when you just spend time next to him for an extended period. This means that the smell will also rub off on other goats in the herd, as they spend a lot of time with the bug, and the does might even get mounted by him. If the same is the case for Tauntauns, you can reduce their stench by having a female-only herd, or by castrating the males. There might, however, be a huge problem with castrating them. Reptiles don't have a scrotum with their testicles inside, they carry them internally, close to the kidneys, making castration a difficult and invasive surgery the Tauntaun will take some time to recover from. I mean, it's possible that their testicles are more mammalian and that they possess a scrotum, but I think internal testicles would make more sense, given how cold Hoth is. Tauntauns wouldn't risk freezing their balls off. Using limited resources to castrate a Tauntaun is probably a bad idea for the rebels. They should only consider it if the stench is unbearable, and if male Tauntauns are significantly bigger and stronger than female ones, which we don't have evidence for. In legends, the Tauntaun was described as a matriarchal herd animal, leading me to believe their social structure might be similar to the Wisent, with an alpha female leading the herd and males either staying at the edges of the herd to protect it or forming smaller male-only groups. In the Wisent, the males are still bigger than the females, as they have to heavily compete for the right to reproduce. It is likely the Tauntauns fight by bumping their heads against each other, like Wisents, goats and mufflons do. They might even use their horns to defend themselves against wampas, their natural predators. Though we know that a single Tauntaun doesn't have a good chance to fight off a wampa, in a herd they might be more difficult to overwhelm. The presence of wampas would also give support to the idea that male Tauntauns flank the herd to shield the females and the young. Legends suggest that Tauntauns don't have mammary glands, which makes it odd to describe them as reptomammals, given that the word mammal comes from mammary gland. Maybe it's meant to say that their fur makes them look more mammalian than reptilian. Legends also says Tauntauns can give birth to living young. This might sound like an exclusively mammalian trait, but even on Earth there are reptiles giving birth to living young, because their eggs hatch inside the mother's body. This is known as ovoviviparity, coming from the Latin words ovum, meaning egg, vivis, meaning living, and partus, meaning birth. The birth of a living young with the involvement of an egg. This is distinct from oviparity, where the mother lays an egg from which a young will hatch later. Tauntauns have pointy incisors, and they are said to eat ice worms, algae, and fungi. In legends they even eat larger animals, like hawks and ice scrabblers, making them omnivorous. This broad spectrum of possible food sources is likely an adaptation to the very limited food supply on Hoth. They possess two different pairs of nostrils. The bigger one is only used during physical exertion, like running or fighting. The idea behind this is likely that they lose less heat when they seal the large nostrils and breathe through the smaller ones. This would suggest that they are able to regulate the blood flow in the large nostrils, reducing it when it's sealed to not waste energy. The Tauntaun's ears are pointy and protrude pretty far from the head. To prevent the ears from freezing off, the Tauntauns probably have lots of blood vessels inside them to keep the temperature high, losing a lot of heat through them. Selection, however, does appear to favor the big protruding ears over smaller flat-lying ears, or they wouldn't have them. What reason could there be to justify the waste of heat on an ice planet where it is very hard to find food? It's likely because wampas use snowstorms to avoid being seen by their prey, so the Tauntauns evolved good hearing and large ears to pick up any sound the stalking wampas make, to avoid getting ambushed. In conclusion, other than the issue of describing it as a reptomammal despite it not giving milk, I would say the Tauntaun is pretty well designed from a biological perspective, though I do like Twi'leks a lot better.